Welcome back to another new podcast from Coatings Pro Magazine. I'm your host, Ben Dubose, and I'm the news editor with the AMP publications team. AMP, of course, is the shorthand acronym for the Association for Materials Protection and Performance, of which Coatings Pro is a member magazine. Today, on a sponsored episode, we're speaking with Don McClain, Ken Seal, and Andrew Croll from the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, or IUPAT for short. IUPAT has so many great initiatives and resources that can be of assistance to our coatings audience. And so we're going to be highlighting a few of those on today's show. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the role of technology and how it's transforming the marketplace in industrial coatings. As you may recall, we've had Ken and Andrew join us for a couple of episodes earlier this year, so we're happy to have them back. They both got a lot of great insights. Don, on the other hand, is a newcomer, and so he's going to be helping us cover even more ground today. For this panel discussion, we want this to be a quick-hitting roundtable format. So if two or three of you guys want to share your perspectives for a particular question or topic, of course you can. But if you want to let just one person speak for a given subject, that works as well. Whatever you guys are most comfortable with. So let's start with introducing each of you individually. Can each of you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your career in coatings, as well as what it is you do today with the IUPAT? Don, we can start with you.
Okay, so I'm Don McClain. I'm a 30-year industrial painter. I started years ago in the apprenticeship. Started off as just a first-level apprentice, brushing and rolling and learning the trade. Graduated my apprenticeship, worked with a couple contractors over the 20-something years, became a foreman and also a safety guy. And what I currently do now is I'm a lead organizer and the Gulf Coast Projects Coordinator. And I assist contractors with skilled and trained workforce, recruitment, and many other resources, finding leads and helping with bid opportunities.
Andrew, same question to you.
Great talking to you again, Ben. So I'm Andrew Croll. I'm the industrial liaison and general rep for the International Union of Painter and Allied Trades. And what I do is work with our agreements department, our servicing department, in our national agreements, and I help service the contractors who work all over the country. An industrial painter by trade, and have been a member for going on 18 years.
And Ken, we can conclude the introductions with you.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. I'm Ken Seal. I've been in the trade over 30 years. I was in the field working for a contractor for 25 of that in the industrial trade. Started at Bangor Shipyard in the nuclear submarines and everything in between. In today's role, I am the deputy director of the IFTI. I help oversee the training through our training centers throughout America and Canada, which is something I do proudly because training is very important. I'm also a voting member in the ANSI A10 construction standards and set on AFL-CIO and NAV2 Safety and Health Board as I hold an occupational safety and health degree. Thank you, Ben.
All right. And for the IUPAT at large, can one of you give our listeners just a quick overview of what IUPAT does and specifically its role in the coatings marketplace?
So the International Union of Painter and Allied Trades, or IUPAT for short, it's a labor union. We represent more than 140,000 members across the United States and Canada. And the IUPAT is a part of the AFL-CIO and Canadian Labor Congress. But IUPAT has a critical role in protective and industrial coatings. We ensure that the infrastructure is coated, protected, maintained by highly skilled professional workers, which are essentially our members, and that we meet the industry standards and quality standards that are out there today.
So one more background question. We've looked at IUPAT. How has the industry evolved in recent years, specifically industrial painting? What has the transition been like for that field over the past decade or so?
So looking back 10 years ago, a lot of these coatings were heavy on VOC solvents, and now the coatings nowadays are either low VOC or zero VOC formulations. And, it improved worker safety, lowered emission, but at the same time, a lot of these coatings are a lot harder to apply, which requires intense training on how to do the job correctly and make sure the millage is correct when applying these coatings. Also, if you look at the nanotechnology involved whether it's for abrasion resistance, UV blocking, or the hydrophobic properties that coatings now have. You have a lot more involved as far as surface prep, ambient conditions in order to have these coatings performed as designed.
Ben, just to add a little bit, at least on my side, my viewpoint side of it is that I think as asset owners of the structures that are out there, and even the public's viewpoint, especially with all the bridge collapses that we've seen lately and the pipes that have been blowing up lately, is, how the industrial painting or coating jobs are done today. They're more stringent on what they're looking at. They're more stringent on the surface prep, the coatings they're putting on there, because they're really looking at that lifespan of that structure compared to how they did it in the past. I think in the past, years and years ago, they just said, "Oh, it's rusted. We'll just cover it up and move on." But then they found out that just covering the rust up is not what they do. So with all the newer technology out there, the new inspection type equipment that's out there, the more trained inspectors that you have in the field today, the more aware that an asset owner is about his structure. That's really changed the way that we look at painting a bridge or doing a tank or a pipe in today's age. And, that reflects in the type of training that we're given to our membership is because we want the job done the right the first time, but we're really saving lives out there. And I think that's important for your audience to understand that in today's decade, we understand how important it is to do the job right. And with everything that's evolving, we know how to do that job better.
We said off the top that we're talking about the role of technology. What are some of the big challenges that industrial painters are facing right now, today, with all these changes?
Some of the biggest challenges that our painters, our members are facing today is just the changing technology, the robotic systems out there, the plural component systems that are needed to apply or take off some of these coatings. Not only are they just an industrial painter, but they're a machine operator nowadays, and that creates an opportunity to have our members come in and do some advanced training as well.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, and it's really about being in front of that new technology. And I think as the IUPAT and having a third party like AMP and hearing that firsthand what's coming up as changes before they hit the market really allows us to develop a training program around this new technology. So yes, it is kind of scary that it's out there with all this AI stuff and all the robotic stuff and everything that's changing firsthand. I mean, almost overnight. It used to be that you could wait 10 years for a change. Well, today's age, it might change tomorrow. That's how quickly the industry is changing. And we stay on top of that on an everyday basis with, our friends like AMP. And we make sure that we develop curriculum around this new technology and we're prepared for it. So yes, it's scary, but as the IUPAT, we're on the front lines.
Yeah, Ken, I'd like to add, one of the challenges is the continuous need for learning from our journey persons and apprentices, where in the past you'd have to get a certification maybe every third to fifth year. With all this new equipment and new advancements, these guys are in there regularly taking classes just to stay, like you said, ahead of the curve. So that's one of the big things I've noticed.
I want to talk about how they're changing the way these projects are not only executed, but really all the way through the planning process as well. When we talk about using robotics, when we talk about drones, when we talk about artificial intelligence or AI, how are those tools and how are these new technologies changing the way these large scale projects are both executed and planned for potentially years in advance?
When we're looking at, as we talked before, the drones or robotics and AI, I'm going to start with, artificial intelligence. I was just on a call the other day and listening to some students in this new generation, and they talked about they did their report and they did their research off of AI, and they did their presentation off of what AI gave them. But when they were asked follow-up questions, they weren't able to answer the follow-up questions. And the reason why is they just took what AI told them to do, and that's what they reported on, but not really knowing what they were reading. for us, we understand that AI, drones, robotics, all that stuff is going away. Even the stuff that drones are taking, the pictures it's taken, and the measurements it's taken, the robotic robots are going up inside down tanks. A lot of that uses AI technology. They're programmed through AI technology, and AI has to have a human element on it. As the IUPAT, we understand that fully. So not only are we training our membership to operate drones, to operate the robotics, because we can't be scared of it, but we're really making them understand what they are doing, not just trusting the piece of equipment, but understanding what it functions, how it functions, what happens if something goes wrong. And then if they're using AI, is reading what AI is telling them to do, because all AI is doing is taking information that it's finding throughout the world on the internet, and it's putting it together and it's giving it to you. So it could be wrong if it grabs the wrong data. So making sure that our membership understands how this all works, how this is put together, and being proficient at it, I think is an important thing for the IUPAT and its mission.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, Ken, these drones, the advantage of some of these drones is they can reach these hard to reach areas where maybe a man in a boom lift, struggles to get into a tight spot, and there's some hazards involved. So it'll help with that. These repetitive tasks that our workers do that just require 8 hours of the same task and same task. At some point, the drones and robotics and AI will help complete these repetitive tasks more consistently without someone getting tired or complacent. And then it also reduces labor in risky situations where, you can go up and fly a drone and do an inspection on the top of a structure in a shipyard or in a refinery instead of actually sending someone up in a boom lift or on a swing stage. So there are some advantages to it to help with safety.
So for you all at the IUPAT, are any of these virtual or augmented reality tools being used for training or for project visualization? Just speak to what you all are doing on that front.
Yes, Ben, that's a great question. We are on the front lines of using the reality tools and virtual tools from boom lifts and scissor lifts. We have a virtual reality tool that a member could get on, and we can actually train them while they're on the ground, but they feel like they're 180 feet in the air. We can train them that, going up, to a side of a building, but all done virtual, which I think is important. So they get the hand and eye coordination. They feel how it feels when they're at a height, because the tools that we use really makes you feel like you're at 180 feet, because the machine moves and it rocks and it does all that stuff. And it's got some really real job site scenarios that's on the machine. Each of our members can track how they do on this equipment. We have blast and spray equipment that we use, virtual reality, that actually tracks how they're doing it and measure the millage that they're doing, the overspray. Are they using the right tip? It measures all that stuff, and it gives the members feedback, which instead of using, product that could be dangerous, any type of paint, I don't care if it's latex paint, because it does have some chemicals in there that could be bad. And also, if we're using a solvent-based paint, this allows them to actually use that spray gun prior to touching one. Again, giving them hand and eye coordination where they're more efficient when they grab that real machine. And we are developing programs as we go. We're developing one right now on the industrial side that's going to be really going through the certified applicator specialist type of scenarios to prepare our folks prior to getting on a job site. What they need to look for, how to set up a blast pot, how to set up a spray pot, how to get on the bridge, how to set up containment. But our virtual reality is going to do that too. So from just a machine type, we have those, and we have the Oculus, where they can just do stuff just with the Oculus. It's going to grow on an everyday basis, especially as AI grows and everybody starts to adapt to that. And we're going to stay on the front lines of this. We are talking to agencies on a daily basis, making sure that we got the information that we need to make sure that we can build the curriculum around what we need to give to our membership.
And Ken, You nailed it when you said the real life job site scenarios. You have a job site in the Oculus. You can work inside that space. It's immersive, interactive, and guys can log hours with sim spray and virtual blasting without any cost of materials. And the contractors love that. Guys can log hours of time without wasting materials and risking injury. So it's huge for our industry.
And another thing is with the real world situations, we're able to introduce, things that will happen exactly on the job site that they may see. For example, if they're using a virtual sprayer, we can adjust as an instructor, you could adjust the pressure on the computer, and then they have to troubleshoot it as just as if they were out there in the real world, but putting them in a less dangerous situation or using material that essentially, would cost our members money. We're able to do that just on a virtual platform.
So you all spoke to the technologies that you're trying to integrate into your training and apprenticeship programs. What are the skills in the digital space that modern painters need to be successful on the job? When they take some of these training courses and they try and learn these technologies, what specifically are the skills that they need digitally to enable them to have success?
Something that they need to know is how to use a computer. They need to know how to read digital blueprints, specifications, where to look and find this information. If contractors are going to digital documentation and using a tablet or a job site computer. So it's really just knowing basic computer skills, but it's also going into the manufacturers of any gauges that they may be using and knowing how to actually use those, troubleshoot those, calibrate them, and essentially take whatever they know on a digital platform and put it into real world scenarios.
Apprenticeship today is different. When I started out, 30 years ago, they gave us a spray gun, they gave us a blast nozzle, and for sweeping up sand and doing all this stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. They just said, can't go over there and sweep that sand up and put it in the pot or do this or, go grab that hose. I didn't know anything about safety or nothing as apprenticeship 30 years ago. Today is a little different. We're teaching our apprentices not to only be a good journey person when they leave our apprenticeship program because they're well trained, but we're preparing them to be the leaders of the next generation. We talk about the workforce a lot and what the workforce is doing, but without leadership, we have nothing. We have to have people that lead them. So our apprentices are learning this new technology so they could be those new leaders. When our apprentices leave the apprenticeship program today, in today's age, they know how to do an inspection on a job. They know how to use the technology to save that data because you need data in today's age. We talk about AI, artificial intelligence. That's built off of data that's out there for everybody to grab. It's grabbing that data and it's giving you an answer. So our apprentices in today's age has to learn a lot more. They have to learn the computers, like Andrew said. They have to understand how AI works. They have to understand how they need to document and document correctly. I mean, even down to how you asked AI a question, did they ask it correctly? So there's a lot of things that our apprentices need to do today. But if I look back 30 years ago where I was just told what to do, wasn't trained on what to do, or wasn't trained efficiently, I can tell you today, our apprentices are leaving our program. And if a contractor wants somebody that has proficient skills that can go out there and QC the work that's being done and really understand what they're doing, they need to look at our apprentices.
And at the IUPAT, we work with the manufacturers and suppliers and vendors of a lot of this newer equipment, and we'll have technicians work with our skilled technicians and instructors to get everything up to pace and spec with the newer equipment.
So I know it's important to make sure newcomers and apprentices are ready for what the industry needs in terms of handling these technologies. But there's also a challenge when it comes to getting people ready who have actually been in the field for many years, perhaps decades already. What are the ways that the IUPAT is preparing its current members for these types of changes that are driven by technology?
We offer journey person upgrades throughout the United States and Canada. I encourage every member to come into these classes to learn any updates or new technologies, new systems, new processes that are happening. And we work with our members directly to see what they're interested in as well. As new technology unfolds and comes out, we try to keep our members up to date. And usually that sparks a lot of interest, whether it's with a robotic blasting system or any new technology that comes out. They want to be a part of that. Essentially, I like to say we own any new technology that comes out. When I say we own it, we're proud to embrace it and integrate it into our training and our workforce. And that's something that painters that have been around for a long time, essentially we changed the culture for them to want to be a part of that as well.
I like how you said that. As the IUPAT, we look at our membership, I think, a little bit different. I think it's a good way that we look at it. And we have some sayings that we go through on everything we do, and that includes when we have journeyman upgrades. And we say that we're one union, which we are, one family and one fight. And to be that one union and to be that one family and to have that one fight, we have to make sure that our membership is well trained above and beyond anybody else. And we can't not forget the generation that's out there working that was trained like me 30 years ago. We have to make sure that they have the tools, they have the equipment, they have the knowledge to gain. And some of it's a little hard because we didn't, 30 years ago, if you look at 30 years ago and computers, it was a little bit different of what you needed to know. You didn't need to know a lot, but in today's age, our folks that are in the field have to know how to do digital documentation or read a digital gauge a little bit different on a blast pot or a plural component pot. They have to do things a little different. And when Andrew was talking about doing journeyman upgrade training, that's one thing we do because that generation that's out there working that did not get the training as their apprenticeships got today, they are our family, and we will fight for them to make sure that they got the training that they need. So from our apprentices that are coming out in the field today to our journey persons that are out there in the field, that makes us that one union because we are trained equally across the board.
Okay, so let's talk about the benefits of these newer technologies once your members are up to speed. What are the ways that newer technologies can improve quality control and consistency when it comes to actually applying coatings?
That's a great question, Ben. I'm glad you asked that. With the new technology that's out there and the training that's behind that new technology, you really know how a surface is being prepared. The new inspection equipment they got out there is updated compared to how it used to be because it used to be just the same old equipment. They got digital equipment that's out there that can read and make sure that your profile is correct. They got new gauges out there to make sure that your surface is clean like it's supposed to be. And our membership needs to know how to use that. The mill gauges is out there. The way the technology is evolving on the product data sheets and all that stuff is important for the IUPAT. And I think, us understanding that technology and staying in front of that technology is really helping us do the job that we need to do. But I honestly believe the public needs to understand with the new technology that's out there is giving them a safer product. When they drive their family across the bridge and they know that the IUPAT is on there using the standards that AMP set forth, that they're driving across their bridge that's going to hold up. If I'm driving across something that was done 30 years ago, I'm going to be scared, especially if I have my family in it. So the new technology that's out today just gives insurance that the job is being done to its highest standard.
Looking at automation specifically, what impact has that had on project timelines and also on project costs?
I think on the automation part of a project, it's really how the project used the automation to plan the project. I'm going to start with that. Automation cannot be used everywhere. It can just be used in some areas. You still need the folks in the field with a blast nozzle and the paint gun in their hand. But how was that job planned? what was the planning process, and automation really fine tunes how that job is supposed to go from start to finish. And using automation to do that really saves on the fact that, and especially how it was planned, the rework that's done. We don't like rework. Rework costs a lot of money. Rework costs a lot of production. And that's what costs our contractors a lot of money. You can use automation as a tank crawler that goes up the side of it, outside of a tank, and does its blasting or does its coatings. But there's some tanks that's not configured right for that particular machines to be worked on. So I'm just going to say that automation's great if it's used correctly. It does save on production. It does save on timeline and cost in some circumstances. But really, it's how the automation was used to plan the job from the start and having people trained to do the project how it was designed.
And Ken, that's a great point, that you will always need blasters and painters out there. On larger scale projects where it's just repetitive, for an example, a huge ground storage tank where that robotic blast machine can just crawl up and down. That's very repetitive. You're going to see automation on projects like that. But your small, complex, detail-oriented or detailed, intense jobs, there is no room or no way that an automated system can come in there and blast in detail and paint in detail. It's just not going to happen. So we'll always need those painters and blasters. One thing I can say with automation, though, is it takes the worker out of hazardous areas or hazardous environments sometimes, which essentially is great for the worker because he's not exposed to those hazards or dangers. It also will help reduce the contractor's insurance costs or the workers' compensation costs, which in return, they're able to bid more and, send more people to work.
All right. So when people hear words like automation and robotics, there are some that understandably worry that those have the potential to replace jobs. And you all, as a union, you advocate for your members. That's a huge part of what you do on a daily basis at the IUPAT. So how do you all balance the need for innovation and embracing these newer technologies with job security and your role as an advocate for members?
That's a great question. And if I look at the IUPAT in a whole and how we advocating for job security, that's us being on the front line. And then again, building that curriculum around this new technology that's out there, making sure we have the skilled and safe workforce to, and prepared to do these jobs. So being scared, IUPAT is not scared. We're going to be on the front lines and we're going to fight for this to make sure that our members are the ones that are trained to do this, and that the public and asset owners understand that our members are trained to the highest standards to meet their needs. The upskilling our membership, we go to journeyman upgrades, apprenticeship training. And I said it before, 30 years ago, it was a little different. Today, our training is a lot better. We're monitoring our training. That's one thing I do. I fly across the U.S. and Canada, making sure that our instructors have the education and skills that they need to train our membership. I always said that you need the best of the best training the best. And I can tell you that our IUPAT instructors are the best. And the apprentices that are leaving our apprenticeship programs are the most skilled workforce that you can get. Our journeying persons that are out there in the field with the upgrade training, they're getting the upskill training that they're getting, because they're leaving as inspectors. They're getting their CIP from AMP. They're getting all the certifications through AMP that AMP offers. They're journey folks out there are getting up skills that they need to make sure that our contractors are profitable, but most of all, the public is safe and the asset owners are getting what they paid for. And for, the fair labor practices, our IUPAT has frontline folks that are fighting for fair labor, and we're going to make sure that the technology that's out there is not going to stand in the way of us doing the right thing for our membership.
That's a great point, Ken. And when we say technology standing in the way of our membership, and we truly do embrace that and include a lot of these new technological advances into our collective bargaining agreements and training programs in order to assure that no job is actually lost, but they just end up with another tool in their tool belt in order to use any technological advances that come about.
All right, so as we wind down our conversation, I want to shift our attention to the future. We've spent a lot of this pod discussing the need to get people up to date with new technologies and the evolution of the industry. But there's also a generation of workers coming on that's very tech savvy already. So, how are these tech savvy workers that come in at a young age that already have some knowledge of the new tools available? How is that changing the dynamics of the workforce as a whole when it comes to industrial painting?
Then I look at, especially the ones that are coming in today that do have those computer skills because, they're being raised to be on their phone. They're being raised to be on a computer, compared to how I was raised back in the day. We have to learn from them also, the new generations coming in. We have to learn and understand, their knowledge. Just because I learned how to do something one way without using technology or computers and all that stuff, and that's the way I learned, doesn't mean that's how the industry learns today. So really understanding what their needs are, having conversations with them to find out what they need to be educated, but really adapting them to this new generation that or the new generations coming in, really adapting to their needs of really training them on the new automation that's out there, the new, technology that's out there, and us being on top of that, having a curriculum to do that, but really innovating the new generation that's coming in and using their skills to really enhance what we do.
And something that really hits home is what you say, that younger tech savvy workers out there, they're the true leaders of tomorrow. They become mentors to even the older seasoned journey workers out there, because a lot of the journey workers want to know how to do things, but are sometimes afraid to ask, afraid to, that they're going to mess up. So when they bond with that younger worker, they're more inclined to ask questions on how does this work or why does this happen. And now you have somebody who is taking a new role, maybe as an apprentice or just graduated from apprenticeship class, teaching a seasoned journey worker on the job, any new technological advances that are coming out. And it's really great to see that dynamic, as Ken mentioned earlier, the one union, one family, one fight. And that just shows that we truly are one family and out there helping each other grow.
And, the perspective from these younger workers has changed from work, smarter, not harder, as our generation did. They're also more comfortable with technology. They're more open to the incorporation of the technology. We're getting the contractors buy-in all the way to their safety departments, which is really critical. And the actual workers that are doing the hands-on work are seeing the benefits of this newer young workforce working smarter and not harder.
We let off the pod talking about the changes over the last decade or so and the new technologies that are already here. I want to look ahead to the next 5 to 10 years. Where do you all see the industrial painting industry going? Are there any specific innovations or trends that you're particularly excited or maybe even concerned about? Just speak to what your expectations are for the future and what some of the key trends or technologies that we should be looking out for are as we look ahead to the next 5 to 10 years.
So something that we touched on before was, the evolution of the workforce going to more automation, more AI driven. But something that we need to do and constantly adapt is our role in training our members to run it when they run into this, that they know what to do with any equipment coming out, any technology, and that we continue to evolve as time goes on. Another thing that really see in the next couple years happening is the work is going to progressively get faster and faster. Contractors are going to go bid more and more because the work opportunities are going to be done so quick, which frees up a lot of the bonding money that's required to do these jobs. I don't see us slowing down at all. In fact, I see us growing with all these automations, just because it's going to be a more fast-paced industry in the upcoming years.
Andrew, that's great. And Ben, one thing that it's exciting but scary, and I brought it up earlier, is AI is not going away. It's just going to keep growing. But I do not think, and I think the public needs to understand this, I do not think that anybody fully understands the impact the AI could have, especially on critical thinking. We're going to make sure our membership in the next 5 to 10 years, and even beyond that, know how to critically think, not just using AI to make the answer for them or to make the decision for them. We're going to make sure that they understand the benefits of using this new technology out there, the negative impact that new technology can have. But it's scary in the fact that the way that AI is being used in today, especially when I was listening to some college students that couldn't answer follow-up questions because they counted on AI, is people are going to just use AI. They're going to plan a job out, especially the safety aspect of a job site, and people are going to get hurt because they used AI. They looked really good. They're happy because they didn't have to spend days writing up a program because they did it in 5 minutes using an AI technology like ChatGPT, and somebody's going to get hurt. Our membership is going to be ahead of that in the next 5 or 10 years. They're going to understand the benefits behind new technology, and they're going to understand the negative impact behind the new technology, and they're going to be proficient in what they do.
And the one thing you hit on, which I want to reiterate, is there will be a whole new set of new hazards with this automated stuff. The collection of data, there's all new data that will be stored and collected, new patterns of work. And like you said, the key is for the IUPAT and our training staff to stay ahead of this and be out there on the front lines using it and working with the safety departments and the actual operations that are going on, and just continue to work with it and not fight it, but understand that it creates new hazards in our industry.
What are some ways that industrial painting contractors can future-proof their businesses to make sure that they don't fall behind as these changes take place?
So when we look at the future and, gosh, if we had a crystal ball and could actually look into the future, wouldn't that be great? But what we can do is see upcoming trends in the market, whether that's, through the AMP show, and see what new technologies are coming out, whether it's the coding systems, equipment that we're seeing out there, and really help our contractors understand what's coming out there. And for example, I'm just going to throw this out there. Your smart coatings that are out there that I just saw at the last AMP show that actually can detect corrosion by changing color before corrosion happens. It starts to break down the coating and change the color. Requires a special application procedure in order to put that coating on. And that's something we go back and we tell our contractors, hey, this is up and coming. This is the industry you work in. This is where this coating is going to be applied. Would you want to have your workers, our members, come in and get trained on this so when this does happen, you're prepared and ready to go?
I like the wording in there, future-proof their business, right? If a company wants an insurance thing, if they want a future-proof, hire a well-trained, professional, safe workforce. They can find that at IUPAT. That's how they can future-proof their business. And I'm saying that because there's certifications out there that our members leave with that gives a little bit of insurance that they know what they're doing. And if our contractors look at the QP program that AMP offers and really adapts to that QP and runs their business underneath that QP accreditation, they're going to future-proof their business. But most of all, if a company hires a well-trained, professional, safe workforce that the IUPAT offers, their business is not going to be only successful today, but they're going to be successful 10 years from now.
I want to leave off on a positive note. Can you all speak to a particular project or moment where you saw technology truly enhance the trade? Because I think the point that we want to underscore here, we shouldn't be afraid of these new technologies. We need to embrace them. I know that's something you all believe passionately at the IUPAT. So to bring this full circle, can each of you point to a particular project or a moment where you saw technology truly enhance the industry?
Yeah, I'd like to start. So a few years back, when they started with the new plural components and high solid materials, I was a tank painter most of my career, and we would blast, clean the surface, and then do 3-coat systems. And just the high solids and the new equipment allows you to go in and put all 3 coats down in one process, one application, and it's cured out within a day. And when you used to do the 3-coat systems, you'd have a group of people out there for a week putting the different layers on, and so it's changed that part of the industry in a good way.
I was on a project last week. Actually, I was in Alaska and looking and talking to some contractors, and how quick we are able to do data with the technology we have today, because data is important for us to make decisions and to have that critical thinking moments. And being able to take programs like DocuPaint, which is a QC program that you can put your dry mills down, put your wet mills down, put surface profile readings down, and it calculates it all out for you, and it keeps track of that data. And it really actually analyzes that data to help you make decisions, not only on that project, but the next project that's in front of you. Just being there and seeing how this new technology works there, and it's more efficient. We have data that used to take us weeks to really get, that we can get within minutes after inputting it into the system. I think those moments, when I see those moments that happen in the field and really seeing how that data is analyzed today, comparing it to how it was analyzed before, I think those moments are exciting.
You know what, Ken? They truly are, and that DocuPaint program truly is an amazing program. I'm going to throw a little spin on this because it's not necessarily one project or a moment, but it's how the market I see is going because of the technological advancements that's happening in the trade. We're seeing a lot of contractors start to specialize in a niche market. They're going after certain projects, certain coding types, and as technology advances, they truly are honing in on their skills that they're great at, and we're seeing a lot of smaller contractors pop up and just specializing in one particular market. And that's great because now we're being introduced to different markets as well, and essentially building a great training program based off of these new and upcoming niche markets that we see.
So IUPAT is clearly making a lot of efforts to modernize the industry. As we close out the pod, what's next for you all in that evolving landscape as that fight continues? And what are some of the ways that union members, contractors, and the public can help support you all in those efforts?
You know, something that the IUPAT will always do and continue to do is work with AMP, all their certification programs that are out there, whether it's for the worker or for the contractor. And as new and upcoming certifications happen, we will always be up to date in conveying that message to our contractors and putting our members in the seats to get those certifications.
That's great, Andrew. For our union members, really need to be active in what's going on in the industrial world today, coming in and taking the training that they need to be successful, letting us know what they're seeing in the field. Really, us listening to our union members and finding out what they're seeing in the field, what their needs are to make them more successful. So really understanding our membership and what their needs are, I think is very important for us as the IUPAT to do. And I think it's important for our members to understand that and be able and to feel comfortable enough to bring that to us so we can actually make those changes. If I look at the public support, I think the public really needs to understand how safe some of the stuff that they're driving across the bridges or next to the tanks, how unsafe a lot of that is, and how it actually is supposed to be done, especially if there's public money going to some of these projects. If it's public money going in, they really need to understand, how it's supposed to be done, and understand that, the IAPAT has trained certified members that are able to do that work that really protects that public. And if the public gets on the AMP's website, they can understand all the accreditation and certifications and standards that are out there, and they can really educate themselves before making an opinion. For our contractors or contractors that are out there, if you want to be successful, you only have one place to look. Look at the IUPAT and the members, and you will get a workforce that will make you profitable. That's one thing our contractors could do. And then for our IUPAT and AMP, that partnership is important. I think we need to grow that partnership as we move forward, and really understanding each other is the way that we're going to be able to do that. I think working together and teaming up together, that we can make sure that the money that's being spent, private and public money that's being spent on these projects that we count on a daily basis for life and safety, is done the right way.
Good stuff. And I want to mention for our listeners and viewers, you can go to IUPAT's website at www.iupat.org and find out the latest initiatives that IUPAT has going on. It's also got links to their social media pages, everything you could possibly need. IUPAT.org, great website, great place to get started as well if you want to get in contact with any of our panelists today. All right, that's where we will break for this episode. Great insight today from Don McClain, Andrew Croll, and Ken Seal with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. I mentioned that IUPAT.org is the spot for listeners to learn more from them. And as for us at AMP and Coatings Pro, the best place to get more information is at those websites, which you can find at amp.org, ampp.org, and coatingspromag.com. You can also search for Coatings Pro or AMP at your social media outlet or podcast home of choice, and find lots of great content on a wide variety of subjects pertaining to the coatings industry and the broader mission of materials protection and performance. All right, with those plugs complete, we will adjourn for today. For Don, Andrew, and Ken with the IUPAT, I'm Ben Dubose, news editor with the AMP Publications team. Thanks as always for listening, and please come back soon for more new podcasts from Coatings Pro and AMP.